Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Wandering Works for Us. We are Shelley and Beth, a married couple living in Portugal and traveling the world. These are our stories. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. I'm Shelley.
And I'm Beth.
And we are Wandering Works for Us because usually it does.
We're not lost, we're just wandering.
We're just wandering. Speaking of wandering, we wandered off through the countryside this past March to visit a city we haven't been in the Alentejo.
Yes, and that city is called Évora.
Évora. It's about an hour and 40 minutes outside of Lisbon. It took us a little over 2 hours to get there by car, but it's because we like to wander, and we took the back roads in so we could see the countryside.
And it was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
And we had a guest with us. We had Julie with us.
Hi, Julie.
Hi, Julie.
It was one of those not so planned trips, but we had been wanting to see Évora for quite some time. The walled city sounded very cool. It's one of the oldest cities in Europe.
It's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
And by the way, any of you out there listening, I'm looking for a UNESCO bingo card because I think I could get some checked off since I've been here.
Yes, you could.
It's like every time I turn around, wherever we are, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Yes.
So if you got one, hook me up, would you?
So we drove there, and we had gotten an excellent tip. And I believe it was on one of our Facebook groups that I'm on, one of the Portugal Facebook groups. And the tip is to park outside the old city. And we did that, and it was actually free parking and just a short walk up into the old area, and it worked out great. I joked and said probably next time we'll have to pay because they're working on paving it right now, and there's going to be a fountain in the center. But it's a great place to park.
Yes, you want to park outside the walled city if you can because the streets are just narrow. Parking inside the wall is a little difficult. Now, if you're with a tour group, they're going to run you right up into the right place.
That's right. And it's probably easier to park in, say, November or February than it is certainly in the busier months.
Yeah.
But we have pinned that parking lot. It is linked, rather not pinned, on our blog about Évora, so you can look it up there if you're going to go.
Yeah, it was pretty easy to find. And it was easy to navigate Évora as far as we can tell. We were only there a few hours. We did not get to see everything that was there, but we did hit the highlights.
Or at least some of them.
Like 3.
Yeah, I don't think we hit all the highlights.
Really?
we hit the things that were highest on our list, I think.
Yes,
the moment,
in the guide books.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So the first thing we did as we trudged up the hill into the walled city is to find somewhere to eat.
Which I had already researched. And we went to a place, I'm looking for the name right now.
Tua Madre.
Oh, thank you. Tua Madre.
I always remember it because it means your mama. Tua
That's
Madre.
Great. And I had read about it somewhere. It had been recommended, and it's a husband and wife team. She takes care of the front of the house. He's the chef, and one of them is Portuguese. Which one?
I don't know.
We don't remember. And the other is?
Italian.
So it's sort of Portuguese food with a bit of an Italian flair.
It was delicious.
Which sounds a little odd maybe, but in practice, it was so good.
It was so good. This place does small plates. So we ordered about 3 or 4 small plates between the 3 of us, and that did us well. We had dessert also, and then we tried
because of course we did.
Of course we did. And then we tried the Alentejo wine that she had, and it happened to be from a local winery, of course, where they make the wine in the clay pots in the jugs like they did thousands of years ago.
In
when
Roman
the Romans
times.
were there. And so we had some of that. And not only did we learn something new that day, because we didn't know that they made wine in these jugs anymore. We thought, we've been on so many wine tours.
Yeah,
We
and
thought
did you say they're giant jugs?
Yeah, they're pretty big.
Yeah,
I looked them up.
Yeah, they're, I don't know, what, 5 or 6 feet tall?
Yeah, 5 or 6 feet
But
tall, big
made out
around,
of the same
but they're made
clay
out
and-
of the terracotta clay
Yeah.
that everything else is made out of. And that's where they ferment. And so now, next time we go back to the Alentejo, I want to do a wine tour, of course, where I get to see that happening.
I also have a restaurant that we're going to go to where they're actually storing the wine there like that.
Ooh,
And you can
we
have
do
that
both at
wine.
the same time.
Yeah, so we can eat and have some of that wine. And we, of course, will do a podcast on that later.
Of course, we're going to eat and have wine wherever we go.
Yeah, imagine that.
Of course we are. But then after we ate that lovely meal, Évora's really easy to navigate. It was not very big at all. We pulled out the Google Maps. We headed down a street, took a right, and ran basically into the main tourist shopping area. And then it took us straight up to the cathedral.
Yeah, and isn't that called, it's a square, the Conde Villa Flor?
That sounds right.
Flor. Is that Flor?
Flor, yeah.
Flor? Square.
So that giant square is where not only you have the cathedral that's up there, you have the Museum of Évora, which is up there, which from what we understand is amazing.
Yes.
Over 20,000 artifacts, I think, in there.
Got to do that next time.
Yes, so that's on our list to do, of course, again. And there is the Roman temple for Diana up there. And then it's just a beautiful park that they've made, and apparently they do concerts during the summer.
Yeah.
So
It was a lovely area. I went to the cathedral while you and Julie, because we didn't have a ton of time.
no, we
and-
were running a little late from
and-
that 3-hour car
Lunch.
ride.
And I wanted to see the Cathedral of Évora and see the Roman temple next time. And Julie and Shelley were the opposite. So they went over to see the Roman temple, and I went into the cathedral.
Well, the Roman temple wasn't that much. It was a temple, but it was like this square monument with the columns on it.
Yeah.
So it's not like it took us an hour or anything to go around it.
No.
We went and looked at it, went, that's pretty. And then we walked through the park.
Yes, yes. I really, because I knew that they wouldn't be that long, I kind of raced through the cathedral. I did not see all of it. I did not go upstairs or up to the roof. I didn't do a lot of it, so we'll be going back there. But one of the things I did really stop and take pictures of and really look at is it has one of the oldest pipe organs in the world.
Ooh, I bet that was cool.
It was. It is not only beautiful, but I would love to hear it played sometime because it was really gorgeous. This cathedral is, I'm going to call it kind of a Gothic style. It's one of the largest in Portugal, one of the largest cathedrals in Portugal.
Oh, and I think, was it Pedro's first marriage that got consecrated there?
I think so.
Yeah, so if you've listened to any of our stories, we talked about Enish and Pedro because they seem to follow us all over Portugal.
Yes,
but when
indeed.
Pedro got married to his first wife, I believe the wedding may not have been held there, but it was consecrated there. Évora was known as almost a summer village for a lot of Portuguese kings. They would go and stay there.
Yeah, yeah.
And it
And
really is a beautiful place.
It's beautiful, and I think that it was sort of just far enough away to kind of be a summer getaway, but not too far.
Yeah, and a
And-
little closer to Spain, just in
Yeah.
case you had to, do a little diplomatic work.
Yeah, so it was a cool place to see this cathedral. And then you went to the temple. So talk about that if there's anything to talk about.
There's not much to talk about to the temple. If you really like Roman ruins, it's neat to see because it does look like suddenly you're in Athens for a few minutes. Or I say Roman and then I go to Greece.
Yes,
But
you did.
let me try that again. There's not much to say
Rome.
about
Looks like
the
you're in Rome.
Roman ruins. But it is really neat to see if you really like ruins. And, well, that's it.
And it's very accessible.
It's really hard to say, but it's very accessible.
Yeah.
You just walk around it. You take some pictures. It's beautiful.
And not all Roman ruins, or I'm sure Greek ruins for that matter, not all of them are super accessible. You know, a lot of times you have to do a lot of climbing or, you know, going down stone paths or something, but this one was just kind of
it's right
there
in the middle of the city.
Yeah. So it's a good one to see.
And apparently, they believe it was made for, I believe, in honor of Augustus Caesar. But they call it the Temple of Diana because they may have thought it was for her first, and then they got some historical records. But it has to do with the two of them. Either way, you know, it's a beautiful temple.
That's right.
And if you walk a little further into the park, there's an overlook where you can see parts of Évora. You can get a nice panoramic view of
nice.
Évora.
I'll have to do that next time.
Yeah, I got pictures. It was nice.
It's
very nice.
And then after that, we kind of wandered to where we were going to the next big highlight, and one of the main reasons we went, really. But on the way, we went through the Praça do Giraldo. Is that right? Giraldo.
It may be Giraldo. I don't know. Praça do Giraldo.
Giraldo.
Because it
good.
Just sounds so exotic.
Yes,
Giraldo.
but we keep finding G's that we think is going to be a J in the Portuguese language, and it turns out to be a hard G. So we're not sure about that.
Praça do Giraldo.
There we go. Tell us about it.
Well, it's just the main square that's in Évora, and it's surrounded by many shops and banks, and it's the commercial square.
Yeah, and I think there's a government building there. And,
there is, and a statue. And as we passed through on a Sunday, was it a Sunday? If we passed through on the evening that we were there, they had some bands out, you know, some boys busking, playing.
And lots of cafes where you can sit out and have some wine and, you know, watch the people go by. It'll be a good place to do that. There is one slightly dark piece to report about that, which is it is also known as the place where the victims of the Inquisition were burned.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty nasty.
They were burned in public, and ick. But we tried not to think about that. So then we went on to our, sort of, for this trip anyway, the main event, which was the São Francisco Church and the Chapel of Bones.
This was the main reason we wanted to go on this trip. We had heard so much about this Chapel of Bones. And even though we had seen one in Faru, it was really, really very small. It wasn't even a chapel. It was like an altar of bones. But this one is world famous because it has 5,000 bones from monks and possibly villagers.
It's covered with skulls and bones from over 5,000 bodies.
Right.
So there's a lot more bones than that.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. But let's not skip the church because, of course, as you know, if you listen to us, I'm always interested in the church as well.
Well, Julie and I were kind of goofing off in the church. So you go ahead.
So
and
I'll talk about
that.
that because the architecture is just an incredible piece of Gothic design. It also has a Baroque style altarpiece, as so often happens with these big churches. They mix styles. There is just lots of gilded carvings to look at and artwork. And then, of course, the azulejo. I did the end wrong, which is the tile work. And it was really lovely. And again, we were kind of running out of time. And so I want to go back in and do some more staring at different things in that structure. But it wasn't connected. We thought it was. So we were kind of going over to the right and looking for the Chapel of Bones. But we discovered what you really have to do is exit out of the church and walk just, a few yards.
Around the corner, yeah.
Yeah. And then go into where the Chapel of Bones is. So
you can enter the church for free and walk around and see everything in there. But to enter the Chapel of Bones, you have to stop and pay a ticket. And I think it was €6, 6 or €8.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
To see this. And it also includes the art gallery that's upstairs.
Yes.
And the art that's around it. You get to see the whole building for this €8. But what you're really there to see are all the bones.
Yeah. It's a 16th century chapel, and the monks built it to remind us that life is short.
Life is short. Wander around.
Yes. So
maybe that's our new tagline.
I thought it was really cool, though, that was kind of the purpose of it, is they're reminding you that life's short. So,
make sure
live.
You make the most of it.
Do live.
Yes.
Now, what is the inscription that's over the main doorway that you go into?
The inscription on the top says, and I hope I do my pronunciation correctly, Nos ojos que aquí estamos, pelos vossos esperamos, which basically means, we bones that are here for yours, we wait.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And as creepy as this sounds when we describe it, it's actually really beautiful. There is a lot of tile work in it. The ceilings are painted with artwork, and the bones are stacked.
They're skeletons.
Very creatively, you will.
They are, and they're done, like they're made columns in the center, or the cornerstone of the columns are skulls, and then they stack the bones up to make the column. And then they'll do an archway where the bones are across, and at each point of the arch, there's a skull there. And then they have some skeletons on display for you in glass cases that you can see.
Yeah.
But the entire thing, from probably between the columns and maybe 6 feet up in most places, is nothing but bones.
Yes.
And in some places it's all wall. The whole wall is bones.
Yes.
But it really is built with human bones.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And it really was lovely. And I like the message of it, to reminding you to live while you're alive. And yeah, I think overall we enjoyed it. It wasn't nearly as creepy as the next couple of floors up, which we will get to. So, do you want to say anything else about the Chapel of Bones?
I was going to say that if you're going to go, keep in mind that, of course, in the summertime, it's going to be rather crowded. We were there in March. We had plenty of time to see everything that we wanted to see. It was not crowded at all. We could move freely from one place to another. And so I think that would be the best time to go.
Is not in high season. Yeah.
But if you're there in high season, just be aware that there's probably no air conditioning and it will be crowded. Good luck. Boa sorte.
Boa sorte. And it's true that we're not fans of traveling when it's the hottest, traveling when it's the most crowded. Sometimes that's your only choice, and I say go for it. And I say that we're not fans of it, but we're actually going to take a trip this year, the end of July, beginning of August, with our niece. And hi, Katie.
Hi, Katie.
And we're very excited about her being here. And the timing is such that we will be traveling to Spain. So you'll get to hear that in a different podcast. So
sidebar. Anyway, going back to Évora.
So back to this. When you come out of the Chapel of Bones, you see an incredible nativity scene that was built in, I think it was 2021. It's really lovely. They have a whole collection of nativity scenes, and the first one is on that floor. Then when you go upstairs to I believe it was called a museum, wasn't it? Or
yeah, I suppose, yeah.
You see lots and lots in the first room of other nativity scenes, and some of them, they're from different places, they're from different countries, different artists. One of the things that I thought, if you're from the United States, that was, I don't know, kind of funny, is they had the Jim Shore nativity scene.
They had two there, if I remember.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. I always wanted that when when I used to collect nativity scenes, because
you had a couple Jim Shore
I
things.
did, but not the nativity.
Oh,
but
okay.
but I mean, it's beautiful. But it was just so funny to seeing all these hand carved things and all this, and then boo, there was the Jim Shore one.
Well, technically speaking, it is foreign since we're in Portugal.
Well,
so.
I guess you're right.
Yeah.
And it was very different than the rest of them.
Yes, it was.
There was also the Yadro nativity scene, which the size that it is and the complete one is a whole lot of money. So it was interesting to see that all in one place. And then there were other things. There were paintings. There were...
I'm going to be honest. I did not go through this art gallery.
Yeah. I think you and Julie both were just kind of tired at that point.
Yeah, we were
weren't
tired and we were interested, and we found a lookout and a bathroom and just kind of waited for you to meander back.
To do my thing, yes. Yeah. Well, in the back room...
And apparently we missed the really creepy part.
There was a display of dolls. I'm going to call them dolls because they were, porcelain faces and they had clothing on. And like this one was polychrome and wood from the 18th and 19th century. I'm looking at a picture on my phone right now. And it was called Our Lady. And it talks all about the clothing and the silk and everything, but I don't know, they were just, you know how sometimes old dolls are just really creepy looking, and these were kind of ultra creepy. And so I sort of buzzed through those, and then there were a bunch of, I'm going to call them, maybe it was supposed to be baby Jesus, but standing up, I mean, not as a baby, as a toddler. And
we don't have baby Jesus, we have toddler
Jesus?
I
believe this was toddler Jesus. And they were standing up on a little pedestal, but it was a doll. And it had these, elaborate dresses on. And I don't know, the whole thing was just very odd to me.
Yeah, part of me wishes I hadn't missed that, and the other part is glad that I did.
Well, if we take somebody else back there, you may have a second chance. But
I'm going to get you to post this on Facebook when we release this.
Okay, so
listen to this creepy part.
Yeah, it was just odd. So at any rate, then we left. I mean, there were also some beautiful pieces in this museum. I don't want to, discount it. It's very small.
Art, check it out.
Yeah, it's very small. It's just like 2 or 3 small rooms and then a middle section. And one of the rooms is mostly the nativity scenes. So, go up there and see it and don't miss the creepy dolls. Anyway, so then we went out of the museum and we walked through another park, right?
Yes. Well, the good thing about Évora is, especially if you're there in the summer, there are lots of parks to hang out in, to walk through. They're beautiful. And there's usually cafes in the park. That particular one had a cafe.
Yeah, it did.
And so, but that's it. We walked through the park. And we went back to our car because we had a 2-hour trip back home.
We did. And we had left our dogs, here. They weren't being sat by anyone. But we also saw on the way back, the way that we went, we saw a lot of cork forests.
That is true. Alentejo is known for their cork forests.
Yes, and going down to the Algarve. And have we talked about cork forest before?
I think we talked a little bit about it when we talked about the Algarve before.
Yeah.
Our trip down there.
So, you take the bark off of the tree. That the bark, if you will, is the cork. And people cut it off every 7 to 9 years, and then it grows back. So it's a really amazing thing to see these large trees that have the bark taken off of them all the way up to a certain point. They only do it so high. And then, trees that are halfway to, having cork that can be harvested again. So that's really interesting to see if you're in Portugal. And then the other thing we saw was one of my favorite things about Portugal. We saw a gorgeous stork's nest on top of a church. And we even saw, well, Mama or Daddy, we're not sure which, fly off from, we were very close, and we saw him or her fly from the nest and got to see how big they really are. So
Storks are huge.
They are. So it was.
No wonder. I mean, to bring the babies, they got to be that big.
Yeah, that's right.
Nah,
Yeah.
But no, they really are large, and it is quite majestic to watch a stork take off from their nest.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, so it was a good trip, all in all.
All in all. And it was short for us. And of course, at some point, we're going to go on a longer one of the Alentejo because we want to do some wine visits. And you can visit Cork production places. They will take you out and do a whole tour and tell you how it's done, how much cork is produced, what they use it for. And anywhere you are in Portugal, if you're walking through a tourist area or not, you're going to find a store or a booth or something that sells cork products.
Yes.
And of course, every time you have that beautiful bottle of wine, you're pulling the cork out, and that came from Portugal.
Yes, since Portugal happens to be the largest producer of cork in the world, guess what? There are none of those fancy plastic corks here.
We've yet to find any.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen some screw tops, but no plastic corks.
No, every cork we have ever had here has been actual cork.
Yes.
And I suspect that will probably hold.
Yes, I think so.
No self-respecting Portuguese vineyard would not use cork for their
wine bottles.
Their wine bottles is what I'm trying to say. They're vino. They're vino bottles. Vino.
Okay.
I think that's about it about this trip.
I think so. It was a very short trip. Now, granted, I would totally suggest if you're in Lisbon and you're wanting to do a tour. As a matter of fact, we've done a blog post about tour guides all over Portugal. I say all over Portugal, but it's mostly Lisbon and Porto.
Yeah.
But they would be glad to take you out on a trip to Évora, a guided trip to let you know what's going on. They will take you to a cork production facility. They will take you to a winery if you want to go. And they'll take you through Évora and show you all the cool things that you don't get just by wandering around.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we're always going to wander at some point.
Yes.
But, yeah, next time we go, we know of a few other places that we want to go. We want to check out more of the region itself and see some wine vineyards.
Yeah, see more of the mountains.
And see more of the mountains. But Évora is a good day trip. I'm not sure it's a good 2 to 3 day trip unless you're staying to visit all the vineyards. Otherwise, you're there for a day. You get to see the cool stuff, and then you move on.
Personally could fill up a couple of days there, I think, but that's because I don't like to do too much in one day. So I could fill up a couple of days there, but 4 or 5 would be...
That'd be stretching it.
That'd be too much unless, as you said, you are going out for some of the wine tours and going to a cork facility to tour and those sorts of things.
Yeah, so... Probably a day trip, but for those of you like us that do some wandering, maybe 2.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 days.
Okay.
All right. So, what's up for next week? Do we have anything going on?
Yes. This coming week, well, really today's Sunday, so this week we are going to tour and taste at an olive oil farm.
Ooh, yummy, yum.
Yeah, we're very excited about it. So it's less than an hour from here, from where we live. We're going with some friends, and it should be very educational and yummy.
And we'll report back.
And we'll report back on that.
All right, great. Well, I believe that's it for this episode. And next time we'll maybe talk about oil production. I don't know.
Something.
It is the summer season is coming on pretty fast, and we've had our first festa here in town, and so the festas will be starting up, and I'm sure we'll go visit a few.
Yeah.
And then of course in late July we will be traveling to Spain, so stay tuned. I'm sure we'll come up with something to talk about.
I'm sure we will.
All right. And for those of you that are listening, thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe.
Share.
Hit us up on all of the social networks.
All
Do
of
it
that
all.
stuff.
Follow. Just send us a note and tell us that, we're doing a good job.
Or not.
And
offer suggestions.
Yeah. Now, if you're going to criticize, you must offer suggestions.
Said like an ex-teacher.
That's right.
Yes.
How can I improve?
Yes. All right. Well, I think we can say
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If you would like to reach out to us or ask questions, you can find us on our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can also follow us at our website, www.forus.com. That's www.forus.com. Hope to hear from you soon. Obrigada!